Good. Just to let you know, I am recording. Hey, everybody. How was your Thanksgiving? It's good.
Good. How was yours?
It was good. I ate way too much. I had like 3 different meals on 3 different days. And by the time I got to Friday, I felt like I was rolling into my house that night. I hope you guys had a good Thanksgiving. You are quite literally in the home stretch here, folks, with your classes this semester. We've got just a few things that we want to spend some time talking with you about tonight, because we know that there are probably questions that you guys have. We got into some of those last week, but we wanted to take tonight as a kind of wrapping up the course, answering any questions that may still be out there, or at least learning what those questions are so we can find the answers if we don't have them at this point. So Ms. Settle and I just wanted to, first of all, start with, what questions do you have? What burning questions do you have about this semester, next semester, after you finish, that we can help you with, or at least point you in the right direction?
Dr. Wesson.
Yes, ma'am.
My CE and I were talking today about next semester, and this is her first time working with someone from Gardner Webb, a candidate from Gardner Webb.
Okay.
So she was asking me about the 10 weeks that I have to teach. She was saying normally it's like a gradual release where the student teacher will teach a few lessons and, kind of alternate. And then for a full 2 weeks, that teacher is teaching and that's it. But I was under the impression that I have to teach the whole class, the full 10 weeks, correct?
Yes, ma'am. So there is a gradual pickup of content and a gradual drop off of content. And that is for your sake. That is, for the kiddos as they're kind of getting used to you. That is for your CE as they're getting used to kind of stepping back. But generally what happens is, part of that long range plan, that kind of 16, 17, sometimes week semester plan, is you plan to pick things up until you have everything. You hold it for 10 weeks and then you drop it off.
Do you want me to share that plan? I've got it pulled up.
Sure.
Let's see.
So as far as I think I recall you all saying that we will have lesson plans to turn in. We're required to turn in lesson plans every week, correct?
Yes.
For those 10 weeks.
Yes. So on the weeks that you're picking things up, you'll only submit the lesson plans for the things that you're teaching. And then on those 10 weeks when you're teaching everything, you'll submit lesson plans for everything.
Hey,
She was like,
she just said 10.
Lot. And so I just wanted to make sure I told her correctly.
Yes.
So, and Torian said 10 weeks. We actually do lesson plans the whole semester, right?
You do. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to make sure.
Yeah. So as I just said, Nicole, that's if you're picking up 2 subjects 1 week, you'll just do lesson plans for those 2 subjects.
Right. But she had just said for 10 weeks. I just wanted her to know that it wasn't just 10 weeks. It was the whole time.
It's 10 weeks of full time.
Like, for example, if you see this chart here, you might, I'm just going to make that up on the second day here, you might pick up literacy. Well, you're going to keep literacy and then maybe you pick up math the next week. Well, then you have a literacy lesson and a math lesson, and you keep those. And then you might, when you get into your 10 full weeks, you're keeping everything, and then you gradually give it up at the end, but you're still turning in lesson plans until you give everything back. So you do you do have to think of lesson plans throughout, not just 10 weeks. When you pick it up, you keep it, like Dr. Weston was saying. So this is the long range plan that you and your university supervisor and CE. And you always want to think at the end, what is that week 17? Or when do I submit my, or when I do my presentation? I need to have everything finished before that. So you want to work backwards so that you can have 10 full weeks. And then that'll show you when you can gradually pick up and leave off.
And this is, so this long range plan is for our traditional student teachers, for our folks that are taking 450. Okay, and that 10 weeks is for our folks that are taking 450. Our residency candidates, you guys you're already in there. I mean, you're
Yeah,
full
you have
time every day already. So you won't have to complete this long range plan because yours will say T for everything.
Mhm.
Okay, so, and Lindsay, I saw a question that you had, but you aren't a residency candidate. You're a traditional undergraduate candidate that you will be going through 450 student teaching. Okay. Kelly, I see you've got a question.
So will residency students, candidates turn in all their lesson plans? No,
No.
okay.
No, remember, we talked about those 2 observations that you have to do. Remember, Kelly, I kind of gave you a little preview
Okay.
of that. Those will be the 2 main ones that you turn in to
Okay.
your university supervisor. Now, if they need more in addition to that, they can ask for it. They can always ask for in addition to.
But Kelly, the gist of your and the residency candidates lesson planning is for learning task. For task 1, your learning segment. Okay. Taylor.
Hey, okay, so a couple questions actually. So on this long range plan that you have here, so like in my schedule, I have like, I put my whole schedule, including lunch and specials, like,
Yes.
PE. So for those, what do we put for those?
Well, are you assisting? Are you teaching? Or are you observing? You're either going to have an O in blue, an A for assisting. So at lunchtime, if you are in, during your 10 weeks, they're all going to be green. Everything has to be green. for 10
Because you're
solid
responsible
weeks.
for everything.
Everything.
Even, walking down the hall to the cafeteria, going to the, the play or the show or the meeting or the pictures or whatever it is, in that 10 weeks, they're yours.
And all green.
Okay, well, I just want to make sure because that's what I was thinking, but I'm like, how do I teach lunch? But yet again, I was overthinking it. So
Yeah, it's just,
I
it's
thought
what
I'd
you're
ask. I was like,
responsible for.
that sounds really weird, teaching lunch and specials when like
Oh,
the PE
listen,
teacher does
believe
it.
me, Taylor, believe me, you teach during lunch. Believe me, you teach manners, you teach how to open that milk carton, how to put your tray up. You're teaching
On a
what
daily
you-
basis already.
Daily basis. Exactly.
Okay, next question. For our lesson plans, so like the first thing I pick up is Hegarty and our IE, which is our interventions, and we use the Lairland program. So in our lesson plans, do I need to write everything that's in the Hegarty book down in that lesson plan? Like, and everything that's in our Lairland book, because we have a guide that we have to follow and it lays out the lessons. And like it's the same way for our Lairland lessons and our math lessons too, because we got a new math program and it's scripted in a book for us. So do I just need to put all that, type all of it into our lesson plan? Does that make sense?
It does, but there are some things that you're going to have to add in addition to, like there's going to be some hooks that may not be in that scripted part. Your lesson still
Right.
needs a hook. So you're going to have to still
Right.
put in that lesson plan. Use the Hegarty, use whatever is there. It's not, but you are going to have to put it in the lesson plan format.
Okay.
And you're
I-
gonna have to
I-
differentiate for the kids
Yes. You have
in
to
your,
differentiate
classroom.
and have an assessment.
Mhm.
Okay, I mean, well, the only reason I asked is because like our spelling test for Letterland happen every Friday. So the spelling test is the same for all my students. The only thing that like changes as far as differentiation is like our small groups, so math and reading.
But
But,
during spelling, don't you have some students who are better spellers than others and some might need some kind of a support?
Well, all my students right now take the same spelling test with the same exact words in the same time. So
I
like,
know. That's the,
but-
I'm saying you're gonna do the same type of assessment. They're all gonna do the same words, but are there?
It's what you do before you get there.
Yes. Yes,
okay,
there's all kinds of differentiation you can do for spelling test.
okay.
Or spelling instruction.
Well, instruction, yeah, I should have said instruction.
Okay.
Beverly,
Yeah.
I understand we're writing the lesson plans for what we're teaching, but if I'm teaching everything all day from the very beginning, because I'm already in there, do I do those lesson plans? Like you want to see every lesson plan? Like, so for instance, if I have literacy, math, and science
Mhm.
every day, I would do 3 every day for the duration of that whole semester. Right. Even though I'm
Because you're not residency yet though, right?
right, no,
Yeah,
but
if you're in
I was
fourth
just wondering
district,
if since I
Even-
won't start gradually.
But even if you're doing morning group, you still need to have plans for morning group.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I have plans,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
I'm just saying, do they all
Well, you
have to be that
It's not in
EdTPA lesson
addition
plan?
to, Beverly, it's not in addition, you have to have plans anyway. The regular teacher has plans every day. You know,
Right,
you're
yeah,
just-
I have
you're just-
plans, but
you're just
I
doing
will tell you,
your-
they're not that detailed every time, you know what I'm saying?
yeah, and I would say to that, and I know Beverly, you and Nicole are in a little different situation because you guys are in your own spaces there in Alexander, right? Is that right? Alexander
Yes,
County.
yes, sorry.
I would say that that's a conversation that you're gonna wanna have with your university supervisor and Dr. Holzhauser. And my guess is, knowing Dr. Holzhauser, it will probably be, you need to do those lesson plans, just like your residency candidates, until you pass EdTPA.
Mhm.
And then once you get past EdTPA, there's another conversation that can be had then
Right.
at that point. I'm just guessing, but if it were still my responsibility, that's what I would, if clinicals were still part of my purview, that's what I would say to you. So I'm
Okay.
guessing that Dr. Holzhauser would respond in a similar way.
Okay, thank
Hey,
you.
I forget which meeting we were in. It might have been the one that Dr. Lord did, but my head's still a little foggy. But she said that whenever we pass the EdTPA, then we don't have to do the EdTPA lesson plans, but we still have to turn in a lesson plan.
Yeah, and that's something that is generally up to you, your clinical educator,
And the
and
university
your university
supervisor.
supervisor.
Yeah.
And when the three, primarily the CE and the university supervisor, agree that you are, guys, listen, we're not having you do these lesson plans to torture you. I promise.
I know.
We're having you guys do these lesson, and I had to do lesson plans like this when I student taught decades ago. Okay, and I understood why, because the university supervisor and the clinical educator needed to be able to see how I was thinking, how I would teach certain things, the questions that I would ask, those kinds of, the way I would assess, the way I would differentiate. And once I didn't have EdTPA. My portfolio, I can see it, it's on the bookshelf behind you, and it's like a binder that thick. with a VHS tape in it. Okay. I can't even watch it anymore because I don't have anything to watch it on. But listen, until they felt comfortable with my planning and my capabilities in carrying out what I had planned, until they saw the transition, because guys, there is a palatable transition that takes place, and Miss Suttle can tell you this. We see that transition that takes place in our 450 candidates, in our student teachers. Now, our residency folks happens a lot sooner. We may walk into the classroom the first time and you're there, right? But with our student teachers, we actually see the transition from a student to a teacher. We see when you start thinking like a teacher, when you start speaking like a teacher, when you carry yourself like a teacher. I mean, it really is a palatable thing that we can physically identify when it happens. And that's the second paycheck for us, because that's when we know, fantastic, we've done our job. That transition has been made. Okay. But no CE and no university supervisor is going to say, yep, you don't have to write lesson plans anymore until you get to that point. And it's not because we want to torture you. I promise. It's because we want to make sure that you are giving your very best to those kids, because ultimately it is about the kids in your classroom. It's not about the clinical educator. It's not about you. It's about the kids, the stakeholders, right? So we can't let you go to a short form lesson plan if we're not comfortable with where you are in your capabilities. No clinical educator is going to let you do that, and no university supervisor is going to let you do that. Okay. So I know.
Can I add something here too, Dr.?
Absolutely.
All right. Also, thinking about lesson plans, I know you probably haven't heard us talk, or maybe you have talked about a contingency plan for EdTPA. Well, Dr. Bull is going to have everybody even sign a document about completing a contingency plan in case we don't get the results we want for EdTPA, you don't pass. That contingency plan is going to be 4 to 5 lessons on a different learning target. Okay, so you're going to have a one just to have in your back pocket. You're going to go ahead and teach it. You're going to go ahead and video it. So therefore, that's going to prolong that just a little bit in those lesson plans so that you have that ready. Because when we get our scores back, sometimes it's just a matter of needing a new learning segment. Well, you don't have a lot of time. Turnaround time from the time you pass it to the time you resubmit it is about a week.
6 days. It was 6 days this
so you
semester.
don't. So in that contingency plan, that's, that means that you're going to be teaching. We're not changing your teaching. You're going to still be teaching, but you're going to use something you're teaching and plan another learning segment, video the learning segment, and have it ready in case you need it. So that's another reason for us to hold on to these lesson plans too, past until we get the scores back, because we want that already there for the contingency plan.
Just in case, guys.
Just in case.
Just in case. And then once scores come back and you're good to go, then we can start talking about having conversations about, dialing back a little bit. But until those scores come back, believe me, you're going to be thankful. We had students this semester that were thankful that they had continued to fill out those lesson plan templates and continued to video and do the things that they needed to do. Okay. We don't, again, guys, I promise you, we are not trying to just put loads and loads of work on you. Student teaching's hard. I mean, It was one of the most difficult things that I ever did in my life. But it was worth it. Right? It was worth it. Because without it, I wouldn't be where I am today. And I wouldn't have the opportunity to work with you. Okay, so just know that next semester for my student teachers, my residency folks, it's not going to be a cakewalk for you either, because you got to get through EdTPA just like everybody else does. Okay, it is not easy, but we have done everything within our purview and power to get you ready for it. Okay? So trust us, trust the process. Because between Miss Settle and I, we've probably got a good 50, 60 years of experience. Just between the two of us, that's not counting the rest of the faculty.
This is my 48th by myself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I've got
And I know when
28.
even, and this is the other thing, guys, you may be in a school right now where the principal may be, saying, okay, everybody gets to have their own lesson plan template, but you might get in a school where the principal says, turn it in to me every Friday, all your lesson plans using this template. So we're trying to prepare you for any situation that you're in. I know my principal in Chapel Hill, I taught there for 7 years, and I had to turn in my lesson plans every Friday before I left for the next week. That was just an expectation, and they were lengthy lesson plans. They weren't just an outline. So
Yeah, it's not just writing in the boxes.
Mm-mm. So it just depends too, and I know we got a lot more team planning that you do, which is great also to help out, that'll come into play later on for you also.
Nicole, you have another question?
I did. Oh, I know. I was like, I forgot it, but I remember. On the contingency plan. So is this like, should we go ahead and have it recorded and like have everything ready?
Mhm.
Yeah, I would during
I mean,
that,
like have it
during
done
that month 3, 4
By the
weeks.
time you submit,
when I'm freaking out and having strokes. waiting on my results.
No, you're going to
Do
be
it then.
relieved. You're going to be relieved once you hit submit and you've submitted to Pearson. But
I know
what we
but-
don't want you to do is back off. We want you
right.
to
But what I'm saying
stay-
is, so those 3 weeks, I need to go ahead and have it all done. Just
you
in
need
case.
to you need to have 4 or 5 consecutive lesson plans that have to deal with composition or comprehension, and you need to go ahead and record when you're teaching those,
Okay.
just so you have it.
Okay.
Now, we're not saying write the commentaries and do all the video work. If you need it, at least you'll have it.
the
Okay.
main thing is the video, because you won't have enough days to get the video in. If you've got your videos done and your lessons kind of planned, because you don't have to always submit all 3 tasks over. Okay, it may just be this task had a low score. Well, we need this one redone. So, but the lesson plans are the foundation for everything, and the video. Okay, so it's easier for you to, in 5 or 6 days, to redo something if you have that video to go ahead and work with. It's easy to go ahead and start writing, but if you have to do it all, it's just too much.
It's too much.
I mean, I just like being prepared.
Okay. That's what
So
we're trying to do
that's
with the
why I'm
contingency
asking.
plan. That's why the contingency plan is being developed, just for people like you, Nicole, because we do need to be prepared.
Okay.
And hopefully we will never have to use it. But it's just good teaching anyway. It's not outside of, it's just good teaching. You should be doing that kind of good teaching every day. It's just, we want you to video it and have it ready, just in case. And don't do, and also with the ones that you do initially on those videos, save them all, save every bit of it. You might could use clips of those for resubmission too, if you need to. So you save everything.
Good
And I-
questions, guys.
Yeah, I have been reading your EdTPA plans for next semester. Of course, I can't give you, a lot of feedback, but I have referred you back to look at this rubric or referred you back to this rubric but answer this for me. In that, and I'm going to pull this up and let you see this one too. On that format, it says function and it says syntax and it says focus. Oh, I know y'all know this, but I feel like some of you are, I don't know if you're confused about what it says on there or what it's asking for. But a lot
Is
of,
it not the language functions?
yes, but
Oh,
that's
okay.
not what people are, the standard, it's where it says standard and where it says central focus and where it says function. I'm getting some really strange answers there. I'm not getting the central focus is comprehending or composing text. We're getting things outside of those answers. So don't put in more than you have to. They're just saying, what's your central focus? Central focus is comprehending text. My central focus is composing text. The function, look at your verb, and sometimes there may be two, like ask and answering. If you're doing both of those, ask and answering is your function. If it says describe, describes your function. Look at the verb. When you're talking about discourse and syntax, you can't just write the word discourse or the word syntax. You have to say how the students are using discourse. How are the students using syntax? You don't have to do both. You can if you want to, if that's within your lesson, but you have to do one of them. If you talk about vocabulary, what's the vocabulary that you are teaching students related to the learning segment? Not related to a book you're reading necessarily. That may be some of the vocabulary, but that book on penguins or that book on fires or whatever the passage is about, that's important vocabulary, but don't forget the vocabulary in the learning segment. If you're doing the 5 W's, what, when, where, don't forget that vocabulary also that you got to teach the students. You got to teach the students about characters if you're doing characters. So that vocabulary, what I've seen in the write-ups has confused me a little bit. So I wanted to go over this with you so that when you start writing your real one, that you will have the vocabulary down pat. All these vocabulary words are defined in your handbook. If you don't understand one, look at your handbook. I can give you a definition. So if you want to email me and say, I don't know what this is, I can give you a definition. That's not, that's not editing. That's not giving you too much information. But most all this is in your handbook. I promise it is in that handbook. Prior knowledge, remember you have to have a pretest. Don't say in your lesson plans, on day 1, I'm giving a pretest. Nah, why would that not work?
Because it's too late.
Yeah.
You need a pretest before you start.
Where you start planning.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I've seen that in 2 or 3 that I've read this weekend that they were going to do a pretest. That's too late, just like you said. It has to, that pretest data has to drive your lessons. Okay. And then this part, this was brief. We didn't expect you to expand, but make sure you have a hook, an engaging hook. Don't do the same thing every day. Don't show the same video clip or even a different video clip every day. Have something engaging for them. Not just a review. Oh, we're going to review today, or we're going to talk about this. That's going to do during, but what are you going to do to pop that lesson and hook them? Get them wanting to be there with you. Okay.
So this part is where I was having, because I'm like, I don't know how much information I should put in here because I don't want to put too much.
It wouldn't have mattered. You put whatever you want to in there. I only am responding to what I can respond to.
Okay.
Mainly, I'm just giving you questions. And guys, like with your mothers, if they gave you a question and asked you a question, there's a concern, right? Okay. So that's my way of saying, if I put a question in there, how have you engaged the students? See, that's all I'm gonna say. Look at your rubric and see if you've engaged your students. That should be a red flag to say, she must not have seen that in my commentary. That must not be in my lesson plans. So that's my way of giving you the feedback to say, you got this question now, you go do something about it. I'm not going to tell you what to do about it. I'm not going to edit it and tell you, I'm just going to give you thinking questions.
And that's, I think, Ms. Settle, I want to really drive that point home because, you know, this semester, this class is the last time that we can give you guys feedback.
And
Next,
and the time is running
the
out.
time is running out.
It's gone for the task.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, next semester, you have one another. You have your clinical educator. But our hands are tied in terms of what we can do and the support that we can give you. And we've told you guys this all along. This shouldn't be a surprise to anyone, right? You've known that this was coming. You know, some of the things that we try to do is, and Ms. Settle does a great job at this, is she tries to get you in kind of grade level pairs or small groups. So you have similar age kids and developmental level kids. So you can talk with one another about each piece and part of your tasks, right? Because we can't.
And also, that's why it's so important, and it was from this class that when it was time for you to do peer review, that you were ready to do peer review. Because if you're not ready to do it, and I put you in a breakout room, what good is it going to be? And I know there were a lot of situations that, you know, you were sick, your family was sick. I mean, that happens. But that was the purpose for this semester, is to give you practice. And when we do our check-ins, you know, unless you ask to be in a breakout room, I'm not going to put you in there. But if you want to get with a peer during those check-ins, I can put you in a breakout room. But I'm not going to assign you breakout rooms during that check-in. Those are just check-ins to say, how are you doing?
And, you know, one of the things that we can do, and I'm assuming we will do, is identify where are our pre-K and kindergarten folks, you know, where are our first grades, where are our second grades. We may have first and second together if we don't have, you know, but we'll let you guys know who you should be using.
Well, they've been doing
As a
that this
resource.
semester. They've
Good.
now they've been two separate classes, but every time we've had a breakout, I've put them together by grade levels.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll go across cohorts next semester, and that's good. That's good. So Harley, you've had your hand raised.
Yeah, okay. So I just want clarification because I know my schedule is different than most because of that intersession break.
Mhm.
So we don't actually come back until January 9th. January 6th or 7th is a teacher workday for us. So of course I'll be there to start
Mhm.
my transition, but my CE's not gonna be there. She's already told, she's like, I'm not coming to teacher workdays. I'm like, well, I have to be there. So
That's right.
so with my weeks cut short, me and my CE, we sat down and we looked at when EdTPA was going to be due for me, and when our intersession went in. So I know EdTPA is due either the 1st or 2nd or 3rd of March.
Mhm.
And then once we submit and say we get our, when will we get our scores back? Like what's the turnaround on getting our scores back?
It's the end of March. I think I've got, I don't have my calendar right here. It's end of March.
Yeah, hang on, and I'll look that up.
Yeah, I think it's the 27th.
Okay, so it's not gonna tremendously affect me being out March 13th through the 30th with EdTPA.
No, you
Again,
know,
our scores
and
back.
we talked about this last week, Harley. The one thing The one way that it's going to negatively affect you is that you're going to be in intercession during those 3 weeks when you could be doing another learning segment.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the negative of having the schedule that you have. But,
Yeah.
you know, it
You
is what it
plan.
is.
You can plan, you can have your lesson plans done. and
Well,
some things like that.
I'm gonna talk to my principal because there is 2 weeks. So like March 13th, and I don't know the dates right off the top of my head, but there's 2 weeks that we're still in session, but they're only half days. They're for our intercession students that parents have to sign up and send them. We don't do like strictly curriculum based, but I could still get a TPA format and whatever we're talking about for those 2 weeks. I could still be with kindergartners. It's just not going to be with my class. So I wouldn't be able to record them or anything. I wouldn't be able to have their names in it, but I could
Yeah,
still
that won't work then.
have that EdTPA time.
That won't, yeah, it won't work then. It has to be something that you could submit to EdTPA. So it has to be your class. You have to be able to record them. The scores come back March 30th.
30.
Yep. Yep. So, and that's, again, Harley, that's just a disadvantage of, you know, being in the year round setting and having the intercession. You can still do it. You're just not going to have the same
Right.
backup plan that everybody else has.
When do you come back? When do you come back, Harley, from your,
We've got it written down. April 3rd starts week 8 of our like unit.
no, I'm
Is that
saying,
when you come back, when they come back from intercession?
April
3rd?
3rd is when we come back. Yeah.
okay.
So
Well,
like
we'll
we
just
we
have
read
to-
it, we wrote it down to where I could get 10 weeks of teaching in without those 3 weeks. But that it puts me my 10 weeks starting January 23rd and ending that 10 week at April 24th, it looks like. No, 21st. And then April 24th, I'd go back into co-teaching.
Yeah,
to
and
give back.
I think because there's another submission date, April
there is,
20th,
right.
which is a May 11th score return.
Yeah.
So that's a possibility. That's something you're going to want to talk with your university supervisor.
Yeah.
And
That's
Dr.
correct.
Holzhauser about. Yep. Okay, Beverly.
Going back to what Dr. Sutter was showing us, the planning document, when you were talking about the prior knowledge they would have from the pre-assessment,
Mhm.
how do we fill that in now since we've not done,
You don't have
we
to
just
fill that in.
don't,
You don't have to
okay.
fill that in now, but you
Okay.
can't say, you can't have it like in those day 1, day 2, day 3, you can't have it a part of that. That's where I saw it. If,
Okay.
you know, if you just said a pre-assessment will be done prior to lesson, that's fine. I just want you to know you have to do that. And,
Yes,
and
yes,
have an interest
Okay.
survey and some things like that.
sure. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and it's not going to be a part of your lesson 1, number 1,
Right.
because you don't want to give up that instructional time.
Right.
I mean, that's a lesson that you've burnt, basically, that you can't get back. So you want to have that done prior to your lesson 1, so you can then plan the lesson based on their knowledge and understanding. Right? Ryan.
Okay, I have a few questions.
Okay.
First off, oh my God, my brain today. First off, can you go ahead and record like that contingency plan like in February and just have it on the back burner?
I mean, but you're still gonna be working on your EdTPA stuff. You're just saying.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, if I went ahead and like over Christmas break, went ahead and wrote 2 sets of lesson plans, one for my actual like EdTPA I'm going to do, and then I had my backup ones already done.
Sure, Brian, that
And
is,
then just
Yeah,
go
it's
ahead
just
and
a matter of teaching them
Yeah.
and recording them.
Well, I mean, I have to teach anyway, so.
Yeah.
see, that's what I'm hoping everybody sees it as, Ryan. You have to be teaching anyway. Everybody is still teaching anyway during those 10 weeks or whatever. That's gonna be the time we're waiting on scores. So yes, that's entirely up to you in your CEO.
Okay.
You are the CEO. Yours, it's up to you.
Yeah. And okay, so I'm just trying to, I have like another question, but I forgot it. But so as far as like the residential, we're getting observed like how many times?
Two
I thought it
times,
was like just 2 times.
times before you submit a TPA.
Yes.
Before you video is when we really want it done.
Okay.
So that you can have some feedback from a university supervisor before you get into your Ed TPA videoing.
Okay. And then after that, like how many times does a residential get observed altogether?
2.
Just okay. Okay. I thought for some reason I was thinking it was 5.
It is 5 for everyone else.
Okay.
Everyone
Never
else is
mind.
5.
And,
Your
and keep in
class-
mind, these are minimums too, guys.
Yes.
Like these
Yeah.
2
Exactly.
minimum. So
Okay.
if
I mean,
if more is
I mean,
needed-
honestly, Asheville is also really like people like coming here, so they like to write it off if they can.
Well, too, Ryan, in that too, it's like if you pass a TPA, that's the plan. If you
Okay.
don't pass a TPA, then there are 2 more observations in the plan.
Okay.
Okay, so that, and you'll continue the blog the whole time, but
Mhm.
it's thinking of like 8 weeks. Here's our Ed TPA,
Hmm.
pass it. We're good, because 451 is basically for Ed TPA.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't misunderstanding anything. And for those 2 observations, we need to have at least the basic.
You'll do the Ed TPA lesson plan for those 2.
Okay.
as long as well as for your learning segment.
Oh,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ms. Torian.
Okay, I think I recall you all saying something about editing our videos. So during my learning segment, I really have to be conscious of the length of my videos each day because we can't edit our videos at all. Like,
Okay,
what do you mean by,
All right,
okay,
you're
That's
going.
that's a great question.
It is a great question. You're going to video 4 lessons or 5, however remember you decide. You're gonna video the entire lesson. If it's an hour
Okay.
literacy lesson, you video the entire hour. If it's a 30-minute lesson, you video all of your learning segment from start to finish. Day 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 will be in video format. Then you're
Okay.
gonna look at those and you're gonna find 2 clips from that whole thing. Now, editing, no, you can't say, oh, here's my lesson and there's 40 minutes here, but I want just to have the first 10 minutes and the last 10 minutes. You
Oh,
can't do that. That's
Oh, okay.
considered editing. It has to be continuous minutes.
okay, okay,
Okay. And 1 clip is where you were modeling. It can be from lesson 1, 2, 3, or 4. And 1 clip is where the students are applying 1, 2, 3, or 4. You choose. That's why if day 1 is a disaster, don't worry. You still got day 2, 3, and 4. Okay.
Okay.
But
All right.
editing, no, you cannot. Editing means you cannot slice them together and
okay,
take this one because and this child threw up. I'm gonna leave that part out and go to the next part. No, don't even leave that in there at all. Start at a different point and end continuous. Does that
Okay.
make sense? That
Yes,
is a
ma'am.
very good
Thank
question.
you, because I was like, okay,
Yeah.
how? Okay,
Good
thank you.
question.
Now, the only editing really that can take place is if you need to blur a face.
Right.
You can, if you've got a student that the parent has said, no, I would not like my child recorded, and they somehow made it into your video, it happens. You just need to blur their faces.
They don't
Okay.
consider that editing. That's
That's-
permitted.
yeah.
That is not editing.
That is permitted.
Okay, and I have one student, his parent did say no at the beginning of the school year.
Mhm.
So when I spoke with my CE, she reminded me that he gets pulled out anyway during the literacy lesson. So do I still need to mention him in my,
No,
okay,
Nope.
all right,
Because remember, in your context for learning, it's only the ones that are in that learning segment that you're teaching. If you're teaching
Okay.
the whole class, that's fine, but if he's not in there, he's not a part of that. If you
Okay.
have 8 students, those are only the 8 that you put in your context for learning.
Yep.
And
Okay.
remember, in that context for learning, when I'm assessing with Pearson, I'm looking at that context for learning and I'm looking to see what students you have in there. I'm looking to see in your lesson plans if you addressed what were in there. I'm also looking to see if you dug deep into that IEP. It's not just, you can't do read alouds if it's a reading literacy lesson. That's not allowed. Okay, so you have to talk with your EC teacher and say, what other supports can I give these students? You have to have some supports for them. It doesn't have to be all written in the IEP. It's supports that you know as a good teacher they need. So you talk to your CE and your EC teacher to find out what is most appropriate for those students you put in that context for learning. That's real important, guys. It's real, real, real important. That can get a score of a level 1 quickly.
Yes, and it has.
It has, yes.
Like after speaking with my CE today, I was concerned because there are a lot of struggling readers
Mhm.
in her class. And we talked about my pre-assessment. We're gonna do that next week. But I can already foresee that if they struggle to read, they're gonna bomb this pre-assessment.
That's okay.
So
You still need to do it because you still need that data.
The data is
But-
going to help you know what supports they need to be successful in your learning segment.
okay, but like in my learning segment, once I teach my lesson,
Mhm.
I'm trying to figure out how can I help those students, because I don't see where she differentiate those students. You know, it's just one class. Unless I know she does it during small group, but during whole class instruction, I don't see what supports are provided. So I'm kind of like, ooh, what do I do?
Well, it sounds to me
You
like
know.
you might want your learning segment to be written for the small group, right,
Right,
Ms.
that's
Settle?
what I was going to say. Yes, definitely. Do
So
a small-
don't do the whole group.
You don't have to.
Mm-mm.
I would at least say 6. TPA says you have to have 4,
Mhm.
but you're not going to get enough data and somebody might be absent and then you are messed up. So
And that's what I
you
ran
can
into.
take a
this time.
small group and, and you are in charge of who's in that small group as long as you have at least one that's EC with the 504, IEP,
Yep.
ELL.
Gotta have your
strong
focus
reader.
students.
You can choose who's in there.
Mhm.
They're not,
Okay.
and you're not going to tell them in the commentary, y'all. Don't tell them what they don't ask in the prompt. Don't put in all this stuff about COVID, all this stuff about poor students. They're not interested in that. That's a deficit. Stay away from deficit talk.
Mhm.
Okay. Even if
Think
you're
about
saying,
assets.
right, even Torin, if you're saying there's a lot of struggling readers, it's okay to say you have struggling readers, but you've got to know something about them. You can't just leave them hanging as struggling readers. You can say, so I'm going to, provide more anchor charts for them. I'm going to provide an anchor chart that they have at their desk because they're not good at reading from far away or staying on task. So they're going to get a copy of it themselves. So there are things that you can do for those students that is counted as differentiation that we should be doing anyway, even during the large group.
Okay.
Because small groups don't do it all.
But if you're concerned, Torian, about, your clinical educator and kind of staying in that groove with your clinical educator, do it in your small groups.
Sure.
Just make sure you have, at least 6 kids in that small group and make sure those kids are, you've got your focus students.
Refocus students.
Mhm.
And those are determined. Some of you, you determine your focus students at the very beginning of this learning segment. You don't wait, because in task 2, you got to have them on video. And if you don't know who they are in task 2, you're going to be messed up. And then in task 3, you can't talk about it because you don't have the data. So make sure you select those very carefully and be selective in who you choose. It doesn't have to be your high flyers. It can be, but you're going to get so much more data out of the students that are not perfect on your assessments. That data, you're going to see patterns and you're going to talk about, and make sure that in your assessment and in your rubric that you have all the criteria, the evaluation criteria, like for task 3, when you develop that chart, You want all of the evaluation criteria. I'm seeing too many just pie charts, and the pie charts don't tell you anything unless those pie charts are labeled with all the evaluation criteria. The assessor's gonna wanna see what evaluation criteria you used to assess the students on. So all these beautiful charts and everything, if they don't have, if they're just,
Should be directly connected to the standard,
there you go. Yes, they got
directly connected.
directly aligned and with the evaluation. So if you in your standard, it says, ask and answer questions using key details, then you've got to have you've got to have a rubric that shows how you assess them asking, how you assess them answering, how you assess them pulling out the key details. So all those things are going to be on your rubric. Okay, and you've got to plan that ahead of time.
And these focus students that we're talking about, Torian, those are your IEPs, your 504s, your struggling readers, your speech and language, any of those. Don't panic if you don't have any
Right.
of the IEPs, 504s. You're
Right.
going to have struggling readers.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a given. It's going to happen. It's in every classroom.
Do you all think, because we had a conversation about whole group today, do you think it would be a problem if I change it to a small group of 6? Do you think that would be a problem for her, since you all are veteran teachers?
We are guests in their school.
Yeah.
Okay, we are guests. What you need to do, Torian, is you be the advocate for what you need.
Yeah.
You don't need to use us. Just say, I've been thinking about this, and we've had discussions about the submitting that, and I would feel better if you would not mind me using a small group
For this learning segment.
for this learning segment.
That's it. Just for, these 4 or 5 lessons.
And Torian, if she says no, it's okay. You can still do it as a large group.
Mhm.
You can do that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna go across my Brady Bunch screen here. Forrest.
You guys answered most of that in that last 10 minutes of talking about IEPs and 504 students. Mine that were struggling that I included in this practice one, because I did the whole class, which was only 12 kids now. A lot of them are struggling readers, but none of them have IEPs or 504s, and they're in the process of getting it. And I had modifications like read aloud, because that's what we do with this kid every day, every lesson. He can't read, he can't write, but he has no documentation for that. And I've never seen her differentiate any other way, because that's just what we do. Or the computer reads it to him. But it won't matter, because I'm just gonna do a small group with 6 kids, not him. Don't worry about it.
Got it. Make
Yep.
it easy on you. That's exactly right.
Work smarter, not harder, Forrest.
Yeah.
And struggling readers, we don't have to prove that, right? Like, I mean, it's not like there's a document that says this kid's a struggling reader. We
Well,
just
yeah, I
talk
mean,
about it.
that's part of your pretest. That's part of your
Yeah, I
screening
mean,
data.
I know they're struggling readers. 9 of them's in a reading intervention. I mean, like I probably could get documentation, but as far as our task 1, there's not an IEP or official language for it. So you would just describe it as struggling readers, comprehension or decoding, or all the above, or
Mhm.
whatever it is they're struggling with.
Talk about it according to your learning segment objective.
So should I just talk about how they struggle in
That's all
direct
you have
accordance
to.
with that,
That's all. If
with
you
my
look at,
standard?
if you look at the prompts, it says as related to your learning.
right. That's
It
right.
says
Right.
that. We skip over that many times when we address these prompts, but it says it in there. So
Just as relative to that. So if he has problem with long vowels or something like that, that don't really matter. It may come up, but it's not
It's-
central to my standard.
and remember, it's comprehension.
Right.
Comprehension, not phonemic awareness. Though it
Yeah.
does play a
Right.
part.
It will play a part, but it's
Yeah.
not like it important.
Yes, and you can address it if it needs to play a part as a related skill or something like that. But put that in your context for learning. Talk to your CE and anybody that'll help you. EC teacher can even help with just struggling readers to get some very good supports for those students. That's the main thing there.
Okay.
Okay, Ryan.
Okay, so first off, I can go ahead and do my pre-assessment now. I don't need to wait until the next semester starts.
Next question.
Okay, so I don't, that doesn't matter, right?
Next question?
Okay, cool. So next thing, sorry, now it's totally thrown me off.
I'm going to make you laugh a little bit.
I need it. And so
Uh,
that check, and then, no, I totally forgot it. Never mind.
See, look what you did, Miss Settle. You made her forget her second
I
question.
did. I'm sorry, Ryan. I just had to say that. I had to do that.
All right, Taylor.
Yeah. Not totally forgot what I was gonna say. You waited so long. It's not funny. Oh, it's coming to me. Okay, for our contingency plan, it just has to be taught, or we just have to write our lessons and record it before we submit for EdTPA, right? In case of we need it or whatnot for resubmission.
No, it's really during the weeks that you're waiting on your scores to come back that you teach it. Now, like somebody said, can I go ahead and do it in February? That again, that's your planning. If you feel you can do both at the same time, that is your planning. You need a contingency plan. It's your plan. It's based upon your classroom needs.
Okay, well, the only reason I asked is because I teach January 17th through the 20th is when I teach and record my my actual EdTPA lessons. And so that's the week I pick up ELA full time. And so from then on out, I'm teaching full time pretty much. And so if I'm already teaching it, that'd be great just to go ahead and record it, set up a laptop and record it. So I was looking at our year at a glance. I was like, I kind of already set it up that way. So I'm already teaching full time. So why not just turn on a laptop and record?
And just like Ryan said, she's going to be teaching anyway. It's not
Right.
in addition to it's what you're doing. So that again is your schedule. You just have to have one.
Great. That
Just
helps
have a
a
plan.
lot. Thanks.
Okay, Stacy.
Well, my question is kind of specific to my class and our school. Do you want me to wait? Because it really wouldn't help anybody else, or ask it now.
I mean,
wait
it
till
may help
after.
somebody. It
I
may
was
help
just-
somebody.
Yeah, so our so we have the first, second, and third grade in our class, but I'm doing student teaching for just first grade. So does that mean that my intervention groups that I already have for the other grades, then I don't, like, I'm only teaching first grade and I can't help and do the interventions for second and third anymore, like I already am? Or
So you're talking about, are you talking about using those groups as your small groups for your learning segment?
no, for the student teaching part, not for the learning
No,
segment.
you can,
Okay,
yeah, you can
And
work
then-
with those groups. Absolutely.
So you're still just taking over
Okay.
your CE's position, whatever your CE's doing, you're doing. It's just EdTPA, you're going to stick with one grade level. Everything else, you're going to be doing whatever she's doing. If she's teaching first, second, and third, you're teaching first, second, and third.
okay, because we co-teach, so it's 50-50 anyway. So I'll do first, second, and third grade for the student teaching for the 10 weeks. Is that right?
Yes, but
Those-
for
and then
EdTPA,
also
you
with-
have to identify a single
It's
grade
just
level.
first grade. Yes, okay, that's what I was confused about.
Yep, yep.
And then also, so our lesson schedules, since we don't teach every single subject every single day, do I need to add that in each day? Or like Monday, we just they get language lessons, and then we also do small group and interventions, and then Tuesday is math lessons, Wednesday is geometry. Would I stick to that schedule, or would I need to
I
add
would say that's a conversation that your clinical educator, you and your university supervisor need to have.
Okay. Okay.
That's where that long range
Alright,
plan will come in, Stacy, where y'all can
Yeah.
sit down and fill out that long range plan and decide where everything's gonna fit. As long as you have everything, you're gonna have some before the 10 weeks, 10 full weeks, and some after, and y'all fill it out.
Okay,
And-
I was just
and-
confused about the first, second, and third grade. Like, I was confused. I knew that I had to do my learning segment on first grade, but then I was confused about student teaching. Was I only working with them?
Well, Stacy,
And
let me
was I
ask you
dropping
this.
the rest of them?
Are you a TA in the classroom? Is that why y'all share this? Or is it just because you're student teaching and you're sharing this?
No, I do because I'm in a Montessori school. So we're a Montessori public charter school and I have my Montessori degree. So I'm a Montessori teacher. I'm just not a North Carolina teacher, licensed teacher. So that's why we share
Gotcha.
the lessons because we give Montessori lessons. And then for the lesson plans that y'all have me write, I just add in what needs to be added in to make them,
Yeah.
With the hook and all the
Sure.
other stuff.
That's good.
Stacy, when
Yes,
we
sir.
end,
Okay.
when we end class, stay on because I want to show you what I'm talking about with the feedback on the PD.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, Ryan.
Hold on. Okay. I text it down just so I wouldn't forget. Okay, so as far as small groups go, if I decided to do small groups, does it matter that there's other students in the background working?
No, but you got to be able to hear. I've had that. I've heard some lessons going on and some of the ones for this time for the
Mhm.
task 2 and small groups are fine, but those kids have to have a purposeful lesson going on or you can't
Yeah,
hear.
I've
I think
I've revamped my intervention time, and so they have quite independent work that they work on when they're not with me.
that's fine as long as they don't and every now and then an interruption to a teacher is it's
Yeah.
that's what it is and that's not a problem. But
Okay.
it's when they're loud and you can't even hear the students and
Yeah.
that becomes a problem.
Okay, but I wouldn't get counted like, why is she doing this small group when there's like 20
No.
other kids in the
No,
background?
absolutely not. Teachers do
Okay.
it all the time.
Okay, I just want to make sure. I might go back to a small group then. And then the other thing I had to ask if I did stay with a large group, say that like my MLs or my T1s, their teachers are not there and they're in there for the lesson for that day. I still don't have to count them. They're not going to sit there and like count the students that are in my data or count the students
If
that
they're
are in the
that-
video.
if they're in that video in that learning segment, they have to be counted.
Okay, even if like their teacher is just out for one day and they're just still
Yeah,
part
and
of
see, the
my.
thing is, you would have to have permission for them to be in that video.
I already got permission from the whole class just to
Yeah, they'd have to be counted.
go ahead,
They would have to be
Okay.
counted.
but not in the small group if. yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Good questions.
All right, we
And
got a
it is-
couple more
it's 9
questions.
Yeah, it's 9:05, and I know some others of you, don't feel that you have to stay on because you have stayed your hour that you're.
But
So-
let me say, before we kind of move into after class, after hours, session, guys, you are on the precipice of finishing this endeavor. You are right there at it. I know it's exhausting. I've been there. Okay, I get it. But you are so close. So I beg you, plead with you, finish this semester strong. Okay? Don't slack off. Okay? You've got a week, a little over a week left. Finish strong. If you've got things that are missing, submit them. Don't take the 0 because the 0 is going to affect your final grade. All right. Submit it, even if you can only get 80%. 80% is better than 0. Okay. Finish strong. And
start strong next semester and don't
And-
be late with your
Right.
assignment.
right, and that was my next statement. Start strong in the spring. Okay, it's gonna take a lot. For most of you, it's gonna take every ounce of what you have inside you. All right, but it will be worth it. I promise. This is not an easy profession. If it were, we wouldn't have a teacher shortage right now. All right, it isn't easy to get a degree in education or to get your license. That isn't an easy process. But we have equipped you with what you need to work in the most difficult settings with the most difficult kids and the most unbelievable supervisors. Okay? We've equipped you. You're ready. You just have to grab a hold of it, take responsibility for it, and carry it through the rest of this semester and next semester. And we can't do that for you guys. You have to do this. It's yours. You own it. Okay? You can do this. If you couldn't, you wouldn't be sitting in this class right now. If you couldn't, you wouldn't have made it this far. So each and every one of you can do this. Believe in yourselves.
We believe in
push.
you. We would believe
Right.
in you, or we wouldn't be pushing you to finish. We'd be saying,
That's
oh,
right.
you need to do something else. But we know you can do it.
Mhm.
Finish strong.
All right, guys.
Dr. Wesson and Dr. Settle, can I just say something? I wasn't going to say anything, but I just feel the need. This is the last week of the semester. We got lots of things to turn in, lots of things happening, but one of my friends, and she's been a very good friend, what I would consider a best friend for about 35 years. And they're getting ready to move her to hospice this week.
Mm,
And my heart's just broke for her. She just had a new grandbaby. He's a month old. But my heart's also breaking for me because she's been such a great friend to me.
mhm.
And she's been so supportive of me through this whole thing. And I'm just really sad, but I know I have to finish this because she'd be mad if I didn't.
That's right. You have to finish it for you, but you also have to finish it for
Yeah.
her.
But I just really want y'all to pray for her family.
Absolutely. What's her
And
what's
for
her
me.
name, Beverly?
Her name is Anita.
Okay. Okay.
And it's just gonna be a bad week. It's gonna be really hard, and
Yeah.
I just need some prayers, and they do too.
Absolutely. Well, we can do that. We are good at that. All right, guys. With that being said, it has been a pleasure working with each of you thus far, and I look forward to seeing what you're going to do with the rest of this semester and all of the great things that you're going to do next semester. All right.
You're gonna make me cry.
And
You
and
look like you're about to cry.
you got to
You're gonna make
promise.
me cry.
Remember what
I've
you
been
have to
crying. I turned
promise.
on my camera. I was crying a long time ago, honey. I done cried and cried. Beverly made me cry again.
What do you have to promise? That you're not gonna what?
You're not gonna die.
Die,
Yes.
die.
You've already promised that, and that you can't break that promise.
That's right.
Okay?
And now that you're feeling good, Miss Settle, I thought you were gonna die on me the other week. That's the first thing I thought about was